everybody, it's Mariana with 3 Peaks Classroom. I am a grade 3 and grade 4 teacher here in Alberta, Canada, and I love to make helpful YouTube videos for other teachers just like you. In today's video, I want to share with you my top 5 recommendations for books that you can use in your classrooms for June for National Indigenous Peoples History Month. So all the books that I'm going to be sharing with you today are all written by Indigenous authors, and they are all published and created here in Canada. So the first story I want to recommend to you is called My Heart Fills with Happiness, and it's written by Monique Grace Smith. And if I read her bio at the very back, it says that she is of mixed heritage of Cree, Lakota, and Scottish ancestry. So this story is written in English and in Cree, and I like the simplicity of the story, and you could truly use this in any grade because I think it lends itself to a wonderful activity. So the book starts off with, my heart fills with happiness when, and then it talks about all the different ways that their heart fills with happiness. So when I see somebody that I love, when I feel the sun on my cheeks, when I sing, when I smell bannock baking in the oven. So this is a very great jumping off point for a lovely writing activity that you can do with your students after reading the story. But here's the best thing about this story is that they have written it in English and in Cree. So in my classroom, we would have the sentence starter, my heart fills with happiness when, and then I walk barefoot in the grass is this example. I would challenge my students and invite them to find how to spell their answer in Cree as well. So they would have to either research it in books or maybe go online and use the internet, but I would want them to learn how to use some Cree spelling as well so that they are more inclusive. My second book recommendation is The Hoop Dancer's Teachings, and this is written by Teddy Anderson. Now this author has quite a unique story because from my understanding, this author was not born Indigenous, but with special permission and blessings. He was a recognized hoop dancer and wants to share Indigenous culture and Indigenous teachings through his dancing and his books as well. So it says here that Teddy is a culturally adopted, I can't pronounce that, Tlingit First Nation group in the Yukon. So he was given special permission to hoop dance by offering tobacco in a ceremony. And since his own, he's been writing books as well. So I really like this story because, first of all, I like the digital graphics in it, but it also shares teachings of the medicine wheel and the hoop dancing as well. So I thought this would be a really great jumping off point for students. You can read the story with your class, and then you can watch some videos online of hoop dancing, and you can learn a little bit more about the medicine wheel. And it has a really good introduction to a lot of these Indigenous cultural concepts that I think are a great starting off point. The book ends with pick up a hoop and dance with your heart. The path before you, you just have to start. So another thing I like about this book is that it rhymes as well, but I like that it invites children as well. So then you can go to the gym or you can grab some hoops and you can bring them into your classrooms and you can, just experience hoop dancing in that way. So a wonderful story to introduce more Indigenous culture into your classroom. This next story I know is a favorite in the classroom, but I'm still going to include it on my list. And that story is Sometimes I Feel Like a Fox, written by Danielle Daniel. This story is a wonderful story that showcases your inner spirit, I want to say. Sometimes I feel like a fox. It goes through different animals, and the poetry here and the visualization and symbolism is just incredible. So for example, sometimes I feel like a bear, strong and confident. I stand and growl and protect those around me. And you'll notice that each picture is a person or a student with a different sort of headdress, or it's animated that way. And the way that I've used this in my classroom is I would read this to the students, and then I would invite them to create their own poetry and their own artwork as well. Sometimes my students, some of them chose to rhyme their poems as well, but they didn't have to. And just the visuals, the illustrations, and the wordings that came out from my students after doing this activity was just incredible. So if you're looking for a wonderful activity to use in your classroom during June, National Indigenous People History Month, this is a wonderful story that you could use to springboard those activities. So here on the very last page, it has totem animals and their meanings. So they could choose one of these animals and what they mean and they can use some adjectives to describe themselves as well. And so this story, like I said, is written by an Indigenous member of Canada. I highly recommend this story for your classroom. This next story might be one that you've never heard of before, and you might not have seen it, but it is a must in the older elementary grades. So this is a story called Makwa Talks to the Loon, and it is a Cree story for children. It's written and illustrated by Dale Auger, and Dale Auger has a PhD and was a Sakau Cree from Big Stone Cree Nation in northern Alberta. So I have it here. He passed away sadly in 2008. So, but this story is a must, like I said, for older grades. So I would even start from grade 3 all the way up to grade 6, because this is the synopsis. Caius is a young Cree man who was blessed with a gift that makes him a very talented hunter. He knows the ways of beings that he hunts and can even talk to them in their own languages. But when he becomes proud and takes his abilities for granted, he loses his gift and his people grow hungry. So this story is all about, respecting the gifts that you have and not getting too proud, which I think is a great lesson for children in our classrooms, to be a little bit more humble and appreciative. So what I love about this story is that it's written as like a read aloud, but they embed Cree words right there in the story. So you can try and pronounce them. I don't speak Cree, so it's hard for me to pronounce them. But at the very end, it lists all the Cree words and their pronunciations as well, so that you can incorporate that into your classrooms. So again, something that you might not have seen before in the classroom, but I highly recommend this story for you to read during National Indigenous Peoples Month. The last story I have for you, this is a story that caught my eye when I was walking through Indigo in chapters. And again, this was also written by a local Indigenous author here in Canada. This book is called Swift Fox All Along, and it's written by Rebecca Thomas. I love this story because it is about a little girl who has separated parents. The dad lives on the reserve, but the mom doesn't anymore, and she lives with her mom. And so while this little girl lives with her mom, she kind of loses her understanding of her Indigenous culture and her Indigenous heritage. And so she goes to spend some time with her dad. And during that time, dad really wants to reignite that culture in his daughter. And he really wants her to make sure that she feels included. But she has a hard time because she is worried, what if she doesn't belong? What if she feels like she doesn't belong? So the back of the book says, what does it mean to be Mi'kmaq? And I love that. So the synopsis is, when Swift Fox's father picks her up to go visit her aunties, uncles, and cousins, her belly is full of butterflies. And when he tells her that today is the day that she'll learn how to be Mi'kmaq, the butterflies grow even bigger. What if she doesn't fit in with her family? Finally, this story does a wonderful job of illustrating and representing really significant and important parts of Indigenous culture, like smudging or baking bannock bread or being together as a family. And one thing that I really love about this story is that it's actually written based on the experiences of the author. So this is kind of like a little bit of an autobiography. So that's just another piece to this story as well. I highly recommend that you grab this book, Swift Fox All Along, for your classrooms. All right, and before I wrap up this episode, if you are looking for a little activity booklet that you can use in your classrooms to continue celebrating National Indigenous Peoples Month in Canada in the month of June, I do have this little booklet available in my TPT store. This booklet was edited and reviewed by 2 Indigenous members, obviously because I'm not Indigenous. So it was edited and reviewed by Ramona of Thunderchild Cree Nation and Jolene of Whitefish Lake First Nation as well. So thank you to those ladies so much for editing to make sure that the information in here was appropriate, but it also was culturally sensitive as well. So the booklet talks about First Nation people in Canada, the buffalo. The next page talks about the teepee. Actually, there's 2 pages dedicated on the teepee. And then we have moccasins and powwows. And then at the very end, there's just a little true or false, check your understanding. All the information is found in this booklet as well. And I wanted to mention as well that $1 of the sale for each booklet is donated to the Residential School Survivors Society. So just so you know that your purchase in this booklet is going a further way as well. So there's a little activity booklet and 5 books that you can use in your classrooms during the month of June. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I hope you consider subscribing if you found this information helpful, and I will see you guys in the next episode.